What is going on, fellow alchemists? Welcome to Astrology. Today we are talking about Pluto in the 8th house. Alright folks, here we go. Pluto in the 8th house. This is a very, very serious topic. To have Pluto in the 8th house is a very big deal. Alright? And there are those who will say that Pluto is too far away. It's a dwarf planet, thus it can't have the direct influential effects it's supposed to have. It's too small, it's too far away, and so you can't really feel the influences of Pluto. But my argument is you can definitely feel the influences of nuclear energy. And that is what Pluto represents. Nuclear energy. A specified, specialized energy in the chart. That is why it is the higher octave of Mars. In esoteric astrology, we call Mars the undulating energy of the serpent when it comes into the position of Scorpio. Why do I mention Scorpio? Scorpio traditionally rules over the 8th house. The same topics you find in the 8th house are seen in the sign of Scorpio. And so Mars, when it comes into this part of the chart, we see a very direct nature of the undulating go-forward operation of this energy. And when Pluto comes into this, the very reason Pluto has almost a similar kind of symbol to Mercury, just that it's got that circle at the top, is because Pluto administers the nature of this undulating energy. Pluto is the administrator, it is the plotter, it is the designator, whereas universal mind is the one who makes up the design. Remember, universal mind in esoteric astrology is the basic platitudes that follow one after the other, almost like dominoes, and fall into place, thus bringing into fruition a kind of objective or a kind of design that was initially placed in hold at the beginning of the generation before the operation and the dissolution of energy. So Pluto is the administrator of what in esoteric and theosophical schools one would refer to as Forhat. Forhat is a very precise, very unique energy, and it is the energy at the very core of most things in our solar system. The very operation, the very nature of how things operates on this cosmic fuel. All right? And Pluto is a big administrator, a big role in this kind of energy. And so when Pluto comes into the 8th house, ruled over traditionally by Scorpio, ruled over in esoteric astrology by Mars, by Pluto, and by Uranus. Uranus is actually quite happy in the 8th house and is quite happy in Scorpio. Because Uranus involves breaking from the mold as well. It's a very rebellious planet in that sense because of all that electricity, all of that build-up of potential in the most energized sign, in the most energized house in the zodiac, Scorpio and the 8th house. And so when you have Pluto sitting in this part of the chart, in this house in particular, we always see, and this is why I say you cannot say that this has an effect on people, you cannot say it has an effect on the general environment. We always see massive transformation, massive transmutation of one state to another. However, how that is expressed all depends on where that transformation is playing out. Now, if it is playing out in Scorpio, that can take many different forms and formats and themes that underline the very nature of the sign of Scorpio. If it takes place in the 8th house, usually it has to do with resources. When we're talking about a human being, we're talking about the hidden resources, sex, the nature of death and decay, and then transmutation. So we are seeing a very prominent placement for Pluto here in the 8th house, and that is because Pluto is about the entry point into the gates of hell or the underworld. Verno Inferno. You know what I mean? This is a very deep part of the access into the underworld, into the area where you learn about the occultic, primordial, and esoteric traditions. This is a point where the disciple marches in and goes and becomes, through a process of transmutation, the adept. And then they march into Capricorn after Sagittarius, where they have a moment of reprieve, a moment to breathe almost. They march into Capricorn and they accept the higher initiations. So Pluto is a mark of the initiated, especially when it's sitting in the 8th house or in Scorpio. Now, again, you could say it's all about the generational impact it has on the generation that it, because it's so slow moving, it has a generational impact. But this is a planet that will mark you. It will mark you in particular if it's in the 1st house, if it's in the 7th, if it's in the 8th house, and if it's in Scorpio or Capricorn. It will mark you. It will mark you well. So those who have Pluto in the 8th house, it is very, very hard to deal with. It is very challenging. It will really test you. It will push you to the brink and beyond. But because you have it here, you can always come back. This is the sign of the resurrection, almost, in that sense, that you can die from this and be resurrected from it. Now, I'm not talking about the physical death, don't go and try that, but I'm talking about the metaphysical, the spiritual, the higher ethereal concepts of resurrection. This is one placement in particular, if it's in the 8th house or in Scorpio, in the 1st house or in Capricorn. This is a place where you can really find a very, 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 very prominent theme of being resurrected and being brought back, but being brought back with more knowledge than you had before and more responsibility to guard and use that knowledge to better the evolutional path of humanity. So fellow alchemists, there is a responsibility to having this very prominent placement in your chart. But don't feel overwhelmed, don't feel hard done by, because it has its gifts. But you have to be strong enough to walk into hell itself, into the underworld itself. Bow down to the God of the underworld, and I can assure you, he will reward you if you do. So fellow alchemists, that was Pluto in the 8th house. Please don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Drop a like down below. Go into the comment section. Tell us what it's like having Pluto in the 8th house for you. What kind of things you deal with. Until next time, take very good care of yourself. I'll see you then.